She handed me a prenup before she even said yes. That's how it started. And no, I'm not exaggerating or trying to make it sound juicier than it was. That moment, standing there, ring in hand, waiting for her to cry or laugh or at least say something, will probably sit in the center of my brain for the rest of my life. This isn't one of those stories where I'm asking Reddit if I was the jerk. I know I wasn't, but I still don't fully understand how a night that started with fairy lights and champagne ended with a legal document between us. I guess if you really want the full picture, I should start from the beginning. Danica and I met the way a lot of people do these days, through a friend of a friend who insisted we'd get along perfectly. And we did, at first. She was the kind of woman who always looked like she had somewhere important to be. Sharp clothes, always on time, hair never out of place. I liked that about her. She made me feel like my life was heading somewhere just by being near her. We dated for 3 years. Steady, no major breakups, no cheating scandals, nothing dramatic. If you'd asked me 6 months ago if I was sure she was the one, I would have said yes without even thinking. I planned the proposal for a Friday night in late September. I'd booked us a corner table at the Cherrywood, this cozy little rooftop restaurant in Boulder with views of the mountains. Danica loved that place, said it made her feel like she was in a movie. I coordinated with the waiter to bring out the ring box with dessert. Nothing too over the top, just enough to be romantic. Everything went exactly as I'd hoped, until it didn't. She gasped when she saw the box, and I knelt beside the table, heart pounding. I started saying the lines I'd practiced. You're my person. I can't imagine doing life with anyone else. All that genuine from the heart stuff. Her eyes watered a little, and I thought, this is it. She's gonna say yes, and she did. Kind of. She nodded, whispered yes. But then, before I could even slide the ring onto her finger, she said, I have something for you too. At first, I thought it was a joke, some cute little inside thing, maybe a note or a trinket. But she reached into her bag, pulled out a manila envelope, and placed it on the table. My hand paused midair, still holding the ring. What's this? I asked. She smiled, not a nervous smile, just her usual polished one. Just something I've been working on. My dad's lawyer helped me put it together. I didn't want to spring it on you after we'd already started planning things. I looked at the envelope like it might explode. Danica, is this a prenup? She nodded. It's standard, nothing weird. Just covering my properties, the commissions I've saved, stuff like that. You'd probably want to add your stuff too. She said it like she was offering me, no tremble in her voice. Tremble in her voice. No second guessing. I slowly lowered the ring back into the box, fingers shaking just enough for me to notice. You brought a prenup to my proposal? Well, she said, sipping her wine, I figured we'd eventually talk about it. I just thought it was better to be up front now instead of having it come up later and making it awkward. I sat back in my chair, totally silent. I don't remember what I ordered for dinner, but I didn't eat much of it. My appetite had evaporated. On the drive home, we barely spoke. I think she thought I was just processing, and I was, just not in the way she probably hoped. I couldn't shake this feeling like I'd just proposed to a business partner, like love was a thing we could itemize. Once we got to my apartment, she kissed my cheek, said, I love you, and went home to hers. Like nothing unusual had happened. I didn't sleep that night, not even a little. I kept replaying the moment in my head, her calmness, the way she'd said standard like it was no big deal. I wasn't mad. Not yet. More, hollowed out. Like someone had scooped the excitement out of that night and replaced it with legal terms. The next morning, I called my best friend Tyrese. He listened to the whole story. Didn't say much at first. Then he asked, did she at least tell you ahead of time that she wanted one? Nope, he whistled. Man, that's cold, right? I mean, I get it, he added. And like, some people are just like that, but not even a heads up? She planned it. That wasn't a spur-of-the-moment thing. Sounds like her dad's idea, Tyrese muttered. That guy always gave me the creeps. He wasn't wrong. Martin Moore was the kind of guy who always made me feel like I was interviewing for a job he didn't want to hire me for. Always looking at me like I was wearing the wrong shoes or holding the fork the wrong way. Danica had always defended him. Said he was just old school and protective. But now I wondered if he saw me as some kind of financial threat. I pulled the prenup out of the envelope and actually read through it later that afternoon. I don't know what I expected. It wasn't horrible, just clinical. Line after line about assets, inheritances, commissions, retirement accounts. There was a clause about what would happen to property acquired during marriage and how it'd be divided equitably. But everything she had before the wedding was locked in tight. There was even a confidentiality clause, like she thought I might run to the press or something. When I finally called Danica that evening, I was calmer than I expected to be. "Hey," I said, "so about last night. You're still upset?" "I just need to understand," I said. "Why now? Why like that?" "I told you. I didn't want it to become a fight later. But you didn't think it'd be a fight right then? Like, literally when I proposed," she sighed. "Look, Jake, I love you, but my parents had a nasty divorce. My mom lost everything. She trusted love more than she should have, and she paid for it. I'm just not willing to take that risk. And I'm not your mom's ex-husband. I know, but this isn't about trust. It's about being smart." I almost laughed. It feels like the opposite of trust. "Don't say that," she said, voice tighter now. "I'm trying to protect both of us." From what? That was the question I couldn't get out of my head. That weekend, I visited my mom. She's a quiet woman, the kind who thinks before she speaks and usually says something that sticks with you for days. I told her everything, trying to keep my voice even, but I could feel the edge in my tone. When I finished, she sat with her hands folded in her lap and asked, "And how did it make you feel, honey?" Like I was being tested, like she didn't trust me. Mom looked out the window, then back at me. "Trust is the foundation. If you build on anything else, it'll sink." That line hit me harder than I expected. By Monday, the buzz from the proposal had completely worn off. There were no "we're engaged" posts on social media. No calls to relatives. Just me, staring at a piece of paper that had somehow taken the place of a yes. And in the back of my mind, a question kept circling. If she was willing to plan this without telling me, what else might she be planning? It's strange how a single moment can stretch time. That proposal night, it felt like a movie I didn't audition for, everything perfect until it turned sideways. But the days after, those were slower. Heavier. Every hour felt like it carried a decision I hadn't made yet. Danica, on the other hand, seemed unbothered. She texted me 2 days later like everything was normal. "Hey, love, how's your Tuesday? Want to look at venues this weekend?" I stared at the message for a long time before replying, "Can we talk first?" Like, really talk? She agreed. We met at her place that night, her sleek little condo downtown with the minimalist furniture and spotless glass-top counters. It smelled like lemon cleaner and white wine. Danica was curled up on the couch in her loungewear like nothing had happened. She gave me a soft smile. "So, what's on your mind?" I didn't sit right away. I read through the prenup. Okay. "I don't think you understand how much that moment rattled me." Her smile faded. "I wasn't trying to ruin anything. I know. But you had it ready. You brought it with you to dinner before I even proposed." She tucked her legs under her. "It's not personal, Jake. I've worked hard for what I have. My properties, my savings. I built all that without help. My dad just wanted to make sure I protected it." There it was again. My dad. "I get that," I said. "I do. But you didn't even ask how I felt about it." She gave me this look, like I was being dramatic. "Jake, do you have anything in there that needs protecting?" Oof. That one stung. It wasn't even what she said. It was how casually she said it. "I make a good living. I've got my own retirement, investments. I don't have real estate, no. But that doesn't mean I don't matter." She sighed, leaned forward, voice softening. "I didn't mean it like that. I just meant we're coming from different places financially." "Exactly," I said. "So shouldn't we talk about what that means for both of us instead of you just handing me a document and expecting me to sign?" Her silence said more than words. Later that night, I lay awake again. Same spot on my bed, same thoughts running loops. The thing that kept bothering me wasn't just the prenup. It was the way she'd done it. Like she'd already made a decision and was just waiting for me to fall in line. That weekend, I met up with Tyrese again. We grabbed beers at this dive bar we always hit after work. Sticky tables, old pool tables, bad lighting. It was perfect for honest talk. "She's not a gold digger," I said, first thing. "Before you even say it." Tyrese raised an eyebrow. Did I say that? No, but I know what this sounds like. Woman protects her stuff, guy gets offended. But it's more than that, man. It's cold. She's always been calculated, though, right? He asked. I don't mean that as a dig. She just plans everything. She's not the jump and hope type. I nodded. Yeah, but marriage isn't a business merger. Tyrese sipped his beer and leaned back. I hate to say it, bro, but maybe to her, it kinda is. A few days later, I got coffee with my mom again. She brought up my dad for the first time in a while. You know, she said, stirring her tea, your father and I never had a prenup. Different times, I muttered. She smiled. Not really. Your dad had savings, so did I, but we believed in us. When we bought this house, when we paid for your braces, when he got sick, we weren't keeping score. Yeah, I said, but you two also made it. And we fought for it, she added, firm now. Marriage is a risk, but if you start by protecting yourself from your partner, what kind of marriage is that? She paused, then looked me in the eye. Do you feel like she's protecting herself from you? I didn't answer, because deep down, I think I did. The next turning point came unexpectedly. I was helping Danica load some boxes into her car. She was staging a new property, and her phone rang. She answered it on speaker by accident. It was her dad. Did he sign it yet? He asked. Danica looked startled, fumbled to take him off speaker. Too late. I heard it. That night, I brought it up. So your dad's checking in on whether I signed? She looked annoyed, not apologetic. He just wants to make sure everything's secure. Everything who's secure, Danica? Him? You? What am I in this equation? A risk factor. She folded her arms. I didn't think you'd be so sensitive about this. I mean, it's just a formality. I let that hang in the air. Danica, I said, how long have you been planning this prenup? She blinked. What do you mean? I mean, was this your idea? Or his? There was a pause. Then she said, we talked about it a while ago. After I bought my third property, he said it was smart. So this had been in the works for months, Francois. While I was ring shopping, she was talking legal protection. The more I thought about it, the more things started clicking. The random comments her dad had made at dinner last Christmas. Stuff like, smart men don't take offense to prenups, they expect them. Or that weird toast he gave when she got promoted. Here's to never needing anyone's help. I'd laughed it off at the time. Now it felt like the whole family had been prepping for a wedding contract. Not a wedding. To make things more complicated, I found out through a mutual friend that her ex, the guy she dated before me, had also been asked to sign one. She never told me that. Not once. And it suddenly made this feel like a pattern. The following weekend, I told her we needed to go to counseling. Not because I was trying to fix her. I just needed to understand how we'd gotten here without ever really talking about trust. She agreed. Though reluctantly, we found a local couples therapist, Dr. Layla Harbin, who came highly recommended. Neutral, soft-spoken, firm when needed. Our first session was mostly surface level. Introductions, history, concerns. But even then, something in Danica's face shifted. Like she wasn't sure if she was ready for someone else to hear our cracks. I'm not against prenups, I said at one point. I'm against being blindsided. Dr. Harbin nodded. It sounds like it's not the document itself that upset you, but the way it was introduced. Exactly. Danica crossed her arms. I didn't think I needed to prepare him. I figured if we're both grown adults, we can handle legal documents without making it emotional. The room went quiet. Even Dr. Harbin paused. Then she said, but marriage is emotional, Danica. It's not a business partnership. It's okay to protect yourself, but not at the expense of transparency. Danica didn't respond. We did 2 more sessions. Things didn't get easier. They got more honest. She told me how terrified she was of ending up like her mom, how she watched her mom lose their home after her dad's affair and thought, that'll never be me. I listened. I really did. I tried to understand. I even offered a compromise. Let's write something together. A prenup we both contribute to, not just one handed to the other like a demand. She said she'd think about it. A week passed. Then another. And then came the night that changed everything. I was at her place. We just finished dinner. I brought it up again. The idea of co-writing something fair. Something we could both sign without feeling small. She put down her fork, looked me dead in the eye, and said, if you really loved me, you'd sign what I already gave you. I didn't yell. I didn't storm out. I just sat there, stunned. Because for the first time since all of this began, I realized what she was actually saying. This isn't about protecting both of us. It was about control. When someone tells you if you really loved me, you'd do this, they're not asking anymore. They're demanding. And once love turns into a test, it stops feeling like love. That sentence hung in the air between us like smoke that wouldn't clear. Danica didn't say anything else right away. She just stared at me, waiting for me to give in, like she was sure I would. I didn't. I swallowed hard and said, if you really loved me, you'd at least talk to me before deciding what's fair. Her face softened for a second, but it wasn't enough. I could see it in her eyes. She wasn't hearing me. She was calculating, weighing outcomes, protecting her side. We didn't fight that night. We just paused, ate in silence. The clink of our forks against the plates was the only thing keeping the moment alive. When I left her apartment, I didn't kiss her goodbye. I didn't even look back. That week was a blur. I went through work like a ghost, running numbers, pretending to listen in meetings, scrolling through old photos of us when I got home. The funny thing was, the more I looked, the more I started noticing little details I'd ignored before. The way she used to joke about marrying up when I first got my promotion. The way she always said, my condo instead of our place, even after I started staying there half the week. The way her dad's voice seemed to echo through her decisions, even when he wasn't around. I told myself not to overthink it. But how do you not overthink when your relationship suddenly feels like a negotiation? The following Saturday, we had our next session with Dr. Harbin. I'd almost canceled, but something told me not to. When we walked in, Danica was tense, arms folded, jaw set. I could tell she was ready for battle. Dr. Harbin greeted us gently, sat down across from us, and said, let's start with how things have felt since our last session. Danica jumped in first. Honestly, I feel like Jake's making this a bigger deal than it needs to be. A prenup is normal. It's practical. Everyone I know has one. I nodded slowly. Sure. But they probably didn't get handed one the night they proposed. She rolled her eyes. You keep bringing that up. Because it matters, I said quietly. It wasn't just bad timing, Danica. It told me where I stand, that you see me as a potential problem, not a partner. Dr. Harbin leaned forward. Danica, do you think you might have introduced it that way because it was easier than being vulnerable about your fears? Her expression faltered. My fears? About what could happen if you didn't protect yourself. For the first time in weeks, Danica's voice cracked. You don't understand what my mom went through, she said, staring at her hands. She trusted my dad with everything. Her savings, her half of the business, even her name on the house. When he left, she had nothing. Nothing, Jake. I watched her beg for rent money while he drove off in his new car. She wiped her cheek with the back of her hand. I promised myself I'd never let that happen to me. And I believed her. In that moment, I really did. But something still didn't sit right. Danica, I said softly, I'm not your dad. I know that, she said, voice trembling now. Then why are you punishing me for what he did? She didn't answer, just stared at the carpet like it might have the answer written somewhere between the fibers. After that session, we sat in the car for a long time without talking. Rain drizzled on the windshield, a slow, steady rhythm. Finally, she said, what if I agreed to make some changes to it? What kind of changes? I don't know, something that makes you feel better. Danica, I said carefully, I don't want a prenup from you. I want one with you. There's a difference. She looked out the window. I don't know if I can do that. Why not? Because it feels like giving up control. The next few days were quiet again. We texted less, called less. The tension hung between us like humidity. Every time we were in the same room, it felt like walking around something fragile that could crack if either of us said the wrong word. Finally, I decided to take my mom's advice. Meet her halfway, but not if it costs your peace. So I drafted my own version of a prenup. Spent 2 nights writing it out, researching fair clauses, trying to balance what she wanted with what I could live with. Mine included both our contributions, mutual protections, a clause about transparency in finances, and even a section about emotional expectations, counseling before separation, joint therapy if things ever got bad. When I showed it to her, I thought maybe, just maybe, she'd see that I wasn't the enemy. She read it in silence for about 10 minutes. Then she put it down and said, "You rewrote the whole thing?" "Yeah," I said. "Together, remember?" Her mouth tightened. "This isn't what I meant." "What did you mean then?" "I meant signing the one I already gave you, not replacing it." That's when it hit me. She hadn't been open to compromise. She'd been waiting for me to surrender. "Danica," I said, steady but tired, "this isn't a partnership. This is a power play." She scoffed. "You're being dramatic." "No," I said. "I'm being honest." We didn't talk for 2 days after that. When she finally called, she sounded distant, almost rehearsed. "I think we need space," she said. "Yeah," I said. "I think we already have it." The next session with Dr. Harbin was our last. I didn't know it walking in, but I could feel it in my gut. Danica sat across from me, looking composed again, all polished confidence, no cracks showing. Dr. Gokshma Harbin asked us both how we'd been feeling. Danica said, "I just don't want to keep arguing about this. If Jake can't handle a simple document, maybe we're not ready for marriage." I took a breath. "It's not about the document, Danica. It's about what it represents. You're building a wall between us and calling it safety." She blinked, then said, "And you're refusing to sign it and calling it principle." "Maybe we're both right," I said. Dr. Harbin nodded softly. "Maybe you are, but love can't grow in a standoff." That line stuck with me for weeks. Love can't grow in a standoff. The truth was, I still loved her. I probably always would in a small, permanent way. But something in me had shifted. A realization that trust isn't something you negotiate. We tried one last dinner together just to see if we could talk without tension. It was awkward. Every topic eventually circled back to the prenup, even when we didn't mean it to. By dessert, she looked at me with that same calm expression she'd worn the night I proposed, like she'd already made peace with her choice. "So what happens now?" she asked. I thought about it for a long moment, then said quietly, "I think we stop pretending this feels right." She nodded once, blinked a few times, and whispered, "I didn't want it to end like this." Neither did I. That night, I drove home with the ring box sitting on the passenger seat. The rain had stopped, but the roads still glistened with leftover puddles that caught the streetlights. I rolled the window down, let the cold air hit my face, and for the first time in months, I felt something close to peace. Because I knew what I had to do next. The wedding wasn't happening, and I wasn't signing anything that turned love into a contract. There's a weird kind of silence that follows a decision like that. Not relief, not regret, just stillness. Like your heart and your brain finally agreed to stop fighting. After Danica and I ended it, there was no screaming, no big dramatic breakup scene. Just two people quietly realizing they weren't building the same future. We canceled the venue. She called the caterer. I handled the florist. We hadn't sent out save the dates yet, so there weren't many calls to make. But telling my mom, that was the hardest part. I sat across from her in her kitchen, the same chair I'd grown up in, staring at the chipped ceramic mug she always used for tea. She didn't look surprised when I told her. "She didn't budge?" she asked gently. I shook my head. Not even a little. Mom reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I'm proud of you." That caught me off guard. "Proud? For what? Failing?" "For standing your ground," she said. "For knowing when something isn't love anymore." Danica and I saw each other one last time, about 2 weeks later. She'd left some of her stuff at my place. A sweater, a hairdryer, a stack of her real estate pamphlets. She looked tired. Not broken, just dulled, like the shine was gone. She handed me a small box with my name on it. Inside was the ring. She hadn't worn it again after that first night. "It didn't feel right," she said. I nodded. "Yeah, me either." We stood there for a minute. I wanted to say something wise, something that wrapped it all up in a neat little bow, but nothing came. So I said the only honest thing I could. "I hope you find someone who fits the contract and your heart." She smiled, just barely. "I hope you find someone who doesn't need either." After that, we didn't talk. No birthday texts, no check-ins, not even the occasional Instagram like. We disappeared from each other's lives like we'd never been there. And it was strange at first. I'd wake up some mornings expecting to see her next to me. I'd hear a song she liked and instinctively reach for my phone to tell her about it. Grief doesn't always feel like heartbreak. Sometimes it's just muscle memory fading out. I kept the ring for a while. Not out of hope, more like inertia. It sat in the back of my sock drawer until one day I realized I hadn't thought about it in weeks. I pawned it, used the money to take a solo trip to Oregon. I hiked a lot, stared at the ocean even more, and let the silence do what it does best. Remind you that peace feels nothing like excitement, but it lasts longer. 2 years later, I met someone else. Her name's Claire. We met at a hardware store, of all places. I was trying to figure out if I needed a rubber mallet or a regular hammer. Spoiler, I needed both. And she just walked up and said, "You look like you're about to commit a DIY crime." We didn't click instantly. There were no fireworks, no movie moment slow motion. But she made me laugh. She listened when I talked, and when I told her the story about Danica, the prenup, the proposal, the whole awkward unraveling, she didn't judge me. She just said, "Yeah, that sucks." But also, good call. We've been together for 1.5 years now. We moved in 6 months ago. No contracts, no ultimatums, just small acts of trust every day. Shared grocery bills, joint house projects, late-night talks about fears neither of us had the courage to say out loud before. And yeah, sometimes I still think about Danica. Not in a yearning way, more like remembering an old book you never finished. You still know how it made you feel, even if the story wasn't worth the ending. Here's what I've learned. Love doesn't always look like what you expected. It's not grand gestures or perfectly worded vows. It's compromise. It's communication. It's trusting someone enough not to need protection from them. A prenup isn't evil. I'm not naive. I get why people sign them. But love, real love, needs more than legal terms. It needs 2 people willing to bet on each other even when the odds feel scary. Danica taught me that. But Claire? She's teaching me how to live it. And honestly, that's a better ending than anything I could have planned. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed, please like, share, and subscribe for more content. If you want to share your stories, please comment below. Additionally, what is your opinion on the poster's decision?